everybody, welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. My name is Eric and I'm glad you could join us because today is the day that a lot of you have been waiting for a very long time. Today we get to reveal our 24-month journey on how we made one of the world's most popular charcuterie, prosciutto. Prosciutto is an Italian salt-cured ham, and there are a couple different types of prosciutto. In today's video, we're going to be making prosciutto crudo, which is a raw ham, and I'm going to take you through the entire process step by step. In the description box below, you'll find a link to a printable recipe if you want to attempt this amazing charcuterie at home. Let's get started.
To make prosciutto, we need to get our hands on the hind leg of a pig. So I called my butcher, asked for a hind leg, and this is what he gave me. We need to now bleed the femoral artery. So with my thumb, I'm going to press along that femoral artery until all the blood comes out, and then blot it with a paper towel. Now that it's been bled, we need to salt cure our hind leg. And to do this, we're going to salt our hind leg, place it back into the refrigerator under a heavy weight. That weight is going to help draw out a lot of excess moisture from our hind leg. And it's going to cure in our home refrigerator for 1 day for every pound that it weighs, or 2 days per kilo. All right, so let me show you what that looks like. I am weighing the hind leg right now, and it weighs roughly 21 pounds. So we're going to leave it in our refrigerator for 21 days. The beauty of making prosciutto at home is that you can add whatever you want to it. Typically, only salt is used. But in today's prosciutto, we're going to be adding some fresh cracked black pepper, obviously some salt, and we're going to be adding some garlic. When you add salt, there's really two areas that you want to pay special attention to. The first area that we want to pay special attention to when salting is the exposed hock area. This could lead to spoilage if it's not salted correctly. And so you really want to pack that salt in there under the skin, in and around the area. And you're going to see me do this a couple times during the curing process. The other area is the exposed ball joint. And as long as you have enough salt packed in between the bone and the meat right here at the top, you should be fine. We're also going to add a little garlic, like we said before. Now, this is not traditional, but that's the beauty of making this type of charcuterie at home. You can totally play with the flavors and create your very own unique prosciutto. So I'm just adding a little pepper, a little garlic, nothing too extreme, just enough to accent the flavor of the pork. If you want to go super traditional, salt is all you need, and you just want to make sure that you put a nice thick coating of salt around the exposed meat portion of your pork leg. So I'm going to place that into our bin. I've got my salt on the top. I've got a little layer on the bottom, and we're going to place that into our refrigerator. Now, I do want to put a weight on it. That's going to help it cure a little faster. So I'm going to put a cutting board on top of our pork leg, and then I'm going to put a bin of water that's got roughly 4 gallons in it. That's about 33 pounds, I think. And that's going to hang out in our fridge as it begins the curing process. So what I want to do is after about 3 or 4 days, I'm going to take it out of the fridge and I'm going to flip it over. I am going to apply a little more salt to the top side, and then we're going to cover the entire thing with a plastic bag. What I want to try to do is keep the humidity inside this bin relatively high. I'm also going to increase the weight that we put on this hind leg. I happen to have a 5-gallon tin of coconut oil that weighs about 50 pounds. I wrapped it in a trash bag, and I'm just going to place it directly on top of that cutting board. The amount of weight that I press it with is roughly 2.5 times the weight of the leg. So if you have a small leg, you won't need as much weight. That's going to go in the fridge until about a week has passed. And this is what our hind leg is going to look like 1 week later. Now remember, our leg weighs about 21 pounds, so this process is going to take 21 days. And 7 days into it, our hind leg is beginning to look nice and pressed. We've got some moisture that's been pulled from this hind leg, as you can see right there. And I'm going to go ahead and toss that. I don't want that pork leg to sit in a salty brine. So now that that's been tossed, we're going to resalt the top area of our hind leg. We're going to pay attention to those two special areas, the ball joint and the hock, making sure that we pack plenty of salt in both of those areas. And once that happens, we're going to cover it with our trash bag. I'm going to place my 50-pound weight directly on top, and back into the fridge it goes for 1 more week. This is what it looks like after 2 weeks. So notice we now have even more moisture that's been pulled out of our hind leg. We're going to toss that liquid and repeat the process 1 more time. It's now been 21 days and our hind leg has finished curing. When I take off the top, you can see that even more moisture has been extracted. And I'm going to go ahead and just brush off any excess salt from that leg and then put it under some running water. This next step is all about preparing the meat for the drying stage. So I just want to make sure that I rinse off, all the spices, all the seasonings that I have on it. If you only have salt, just make sure there's no salt left over. And once it's completely rinsed off, we're going to give it a wine bath. So we're going to take 2 or 3 cups of wine, pour it all over my meat, and just make sure that we get the whole thing rubbed down really nice. Now, I did end up trimming just a little bit off the top of that leg to create a smoother, flat surface, but other than that, nothing has changed. So I'm going to finish cleaning this off with a little wine, and then we're going to wrap it in a collagen sheet. Now, this particular step is optional. You can hang this meat to dry without the collagen sheet, and it will dry just fine, but I happen to have collagen sheets, and I like the way that it slows down the drying process, and from my experience, tends to develop the flavor a little bit more. So we're going to wrap that with a collagen sheet, but like I said, if you don't have one, you do not need one for prosciutto. So once I get that wrapped, I'm going to take a sausage pricker that's been sterilized, and we're just going to prick out any air pockets that might have formed between the meat and the collagen sheet. And it's now time to tie up our leg. Now, you do want to make sure that you tie this up really good. This first particular tie that I made, I did not have a lot of confidence in it. I felt like it could have fallen. And so what I ended up doing was retying it by threading the needle through the hawk, and that was a whole lot better. So you just got to, work with what you got. We're now going to weigh our leg one last time. This is called the hanging weight, and I'm going to jot that weight down. Our target weight loss during this initial drying period is 30%. So we're going to subtract 30% from our hanging weight, and as soon as we hit that target, we can move on to the last phase of what it takes to make prosciutto. So at this point, we're just going to take our hind leg and place it into our drying chamber. And if you want to see how we built this particular drying chamber, check out the video suggestion at the end of this video. You can also hang this in a basement or a cellar, just as long as the temperature averages 55 Fahrenheit or 13 Celsius, and the humidity averages 80%. Anywhere between 75 and 80% is fine. And your hind leg is going to hang out and dry until your target weight loss has been reached. And for us, we're looking for a 30% weight loss. And this is what it looks like after our hind leg has lost 30%. And there's really no good definitive timeline to give you as to how long it takes because, it all comes down to size and drying conditions. But as soon as you lose 30%, you are good to move on to the final phase of making prosciutto, which is the aging and the final curing, and that's what we got right here. So we're just going to go ahead and peel off our collagen sheet, and if you chose to not use a collagen sheet, no worries. You're probably going to have a mold layer covering the meat itself, and you're going to want to rinse that off like we're going to do here. So you're still going to proceed with this step. We're going to take a 50-50 water vinegar mix, and we're going to clean off the exposed meat portions just to get rid of any of that surface mold, and then we're going to blot it dry with a paper towel. What we want to do is get this ready for a sunya layer. And sunya is an equal parts combination of lard and rice flour. And it creates this very interesting putty-like substance that dramatically slows down the drying process. So I'm going to go ahead and take some lard that we recently rendered. We're going to mix it with some rice flour, and then we're going to add a little black pepper. Now, the addition of black pepper to your sunya is optional. Depending on where your prosciutto will be hanging, black pepper inside the sunya mix actually is to deter insects. And so I'm going to add it just so that you see what it looks like. But technically, mine's in a controlled environment, and so we don't necessarily need the black pepper. But this is what that's going to look like in the event that you're hanging it in a basement or a cellar and you want to keep the bugs away. So as you mix this rice flour and lard mixture, black pepper optional, you're going to notice that it's going to start to come together slowly at first, and then it's going to start to come together relatively quick and then have the consistency of a Play-Doh. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So this is what the end product looks like. Our sunya is done. We can keep this in the refrigerator. It'll last for a long time. We're just going to take what we need here and apply it to the exposed meat portion of our prosciutto. So this is going to be the entire top section. We're going to make sure that we apply that sunya everywhere that meat's visible, making sure that we overlap the skin just a little bit. And it's not necessary to apply sunya to the skin portion because the skin itself is the protective barrier. So we're just going to apply this to the exposed meat only, and this is going to allow this prosciutto to continue aging, equalizing, curing, the whole bit. We're going to place this now back into our drying chamber. So, It could be a modified refrigerator, a basement, or a cellar. And you want to let it hang in there for at least 8 more months. So the total hanging time from beginning to end is going to be somewhere between 12 to 14 months on the low end. The temperature is going to be, on average, 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 13 Celsius, with an average humidity of about 80%. And under those conditions, your prosciutto is going to continue to cure, it's going to continue to age and develop its unique characteristic flavors. And so 12 to 14 months hanging time minimum. If you can go a little bit longer, it's going to be even better. We decided to let our prosciutto hang for 2 years. So let's take it out of the chamber, give it a cut, and see what it tastes like.
Wow, I can't believe it's been 24 months already, and we finally get to taste our prosciutto. I mean, this project sort of froze a moment in time for me as we started it back in late 2019, a time when the world was completely different. We hung it in our chamber, and there it hung. A lot of projects came and went. We moved it from the salami chamber to the cheese cave as I needed more room, and we moved it back. And surprisingly, it needed very little attention. And so this is what our prosciutto looks like. I've deboned it. I've sliced it very thinly on my slicer, and that's one thing that I would recommend, that if you're going to get into these types of projects, invest in a reliable slicer or buddy up with your butcher and have him slice it up for you, if he will, because to really enjoy these types of cuts, you want to slice them paper thin. All right, let's just go ahead and grab a piece and see what it tastes like. And this is what our prosciutto looks like. Absolutely gorgeous, very thinly sliced. I mean, just about translucent. Nice little fat cap layer on the side. Great color, and this thing just looks about perfect. I mean, evenly dried throughout. Let's give it a smell. Ooh, wow. Wow, that's incredible. Oh, golly, there's just so much going on. All right, so let's just tear this and give it a taste and see how it tastes. Look how tender that is. Oh, very tender. All right, I'm going to get a piece with a lot of fat on it. All right, so here we go. Aged 24 months, prosciutto. Oh my. Wow. That is a very pleasing experience. I am honestly short on words to describe how extraordinarily tasty this prosciutto is. I mean, it's nutty, it's buttery, a little salty. I wouldn't say that it's overly salty. The texture is perfect. I mean, it's got a great mouthfeel, and the fat is extremely flavorful. I mean, it just melts on your tongue like butter and adds such a beautiful contrast between the meat and the fat. The garlic and the pepper that we added, super subtle. I mean, it's just barely coming in, accenting the pork. And the pork is the superstar. I mean, the pork is shining in this prosciutto, and the complexity of flavor that's coming from this meat is absolutely extraordinary. And if I had one piece of advice to give you when it comes to making prosciutto, is that if you have the space, if you have a drying chamber with a little bit of space in it, if you have a cellar or a basement, start a project now. I mean, it requires very little attention after the first series of things that you have to do. Let it hang, and then before you know it, you're enjoying a prosciutto that's either age 12, 24, or heck, 36 months. It's totally up to you. Thanks for watching this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this project. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Also, if you have any questions, drop a comment as well. If you're new to this channel, we'd like to say welcome. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and that notification bell to be notified of all our future videos we upload every week. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. See you soon. Bye-bye.